If you've been on Instagram Reels or TikTok recently, you've probably seen a streamer by the name of Onipixel opening a lot of crates in CSGO. And he's also opening them pretty frequently.
Incoming. I called it right here.
Oh my god! Stop!
Go away.
Fuck, steady, please. Nice, okay, ask. Nothing. Yes! Yes!
Now, this seems like fun in games, and some of these videos are entertaining and funny, but it's important to see the other side of the story. There is an inherent harm in watching a lot of these successful case opening videos. No one posts the hundreds of cases opened that led to nothing. Even if you saw them live, you're not going to go back to watch the streams to watch all the dud case openings. You're going to watch the successful ones, the knife openings, the gloves, the expensive ones. So, on top of that, rarely do you even see the aggregate cost of these sort of crazy case openings. I'm going to show you a clip now of Onipixel reacting to how much money he spent just in game, which doesn't even include the entirely separate entity. That's the community market, which I'm sure he spent probably double what he's already spent in game.
The amount of money I spent on CSGO in game, aka 99% keys. How much? What? Okay, it's fine. It could have been worse.
But I'm aware Onipixel has openly stated that he doesn't use his own money for these case unboxings. Instead, he relies on sponsorships, donations, and partnerships, all kinds of stuff. And that's what gets most of his funding for these case opening videos. So obviously he's not using his own money, but not everyone realizes this. And the goal I have with this episode is not to speak against Onipixel, because it's not even just him doing this. I want to draw attention to the fact that this type of content in general is unfortunately very entertaining and addicting to watch. And it's almost become funny to just open cases if you're bored and to essentially gamble your way out of boredom. Another common feature among these videos, including Onipixel's, is the crazy intense reactions. I'm sure you saw in the first few clips, he was screaming, going crazy. So it makes it seem fun to open these cases. I'm sure it would be fun if you actually were getting the gold items all the time, but you're not. So this problem draws people into the world of gambling and lotteries. There isn't anything necessarily wrong with choosing to spend your money how you want to. But it's important to keep certain things in mind when you're dealing with things like case openings and anything that's sort of gambling related, because it's really easy for it to turn into something more serious after all you were doing originally was just opening a few cases here and there once a week, once every 2 weeks, not a big deal. And so this type of content on YouTube, Twitch, whatever, TikTok, it becomes more and more frequent that you see them, and then it also desensitizes you. For example, if a streamer laughs off losing $500, the viewers think that's funny. It's not serious, it's just funny. But the problem with that is that constant exposure to that type of content makes the activity seem low risk, even though it's quite literally not. On top of that, you may notice him actually not even being as excited anymore by opening certain gold items. Some knives in CSGO are not actually worth that much money. Some are less than $100, some are ugly, some are just not cool, not rare. There's many reasons. But even then, that makes the gold drops, which are already incredibly rare, seem even less exciting, which means you require higher monetary value on your rewards in order for them to be more entertaining, which unfortunately becomes harder and harder to get, because the more expensive the item, it's probably more expensive because it's more rare. So aside from that, the biggest issue in my eyes is that people see Onipixel unbox a rare item after opening 50-something cases, right? Your brain, upon seeing this, overweights the win and ignores the losses. I guarantee if you've watched Onipixel streams or anything like that, you don't remember how many dud cases it took him to get to his knife pull, right? No one does. Why would you remember that? That doesn't make sense. But why that's dangerous is because there's this idea called the availability heuristic, which is this idea that people tend to remember things that are readily available in their mind, and they don't think too hard about other possible outcomes. This makes sense. In many situations, this would be useful. But in this case, it's not. You remember only the big win clip, and you don't remember the blues, the terrible items, the 3-cent items that no one wants that he does get sometimes. So a problem that this does is it makes us terrible at guessing probabilities. you think the chances of getting a knife are higher because you keep seeing him opening golds and golds and golds, and you think, wow, this seems pretty easy. But it's not. The chances of getting a knife from a case is 0.26%. And I'm sure for any other game that has sort of gambling things like this, the chances are incredibly low for anything that's worth a lot of money. And on top of this, if you look at the expected value for opening a single case, I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to know that the odds are not in your favor. You are not supposed to make money from this. It's not supposed to be a form of income. It's supposed to be for fun. So if you do the math, let's say your average skin is 20 cents, which it's usually not because, sometimes it's 3 cents, which is ridiculous. And the average knife you unbox is $500, which is also overshooting it. It's pretty much always much less because very few knives actually make it over that $500 mark. And the cost of a key is $2.50. And we'll assume that you're not spending any money on cases. You're only getting them from free drops in game, right? If you do the expected value calculation, you'll find that your expected value for opening a case is negative $1. That means for every case you open, you're expected to lose $1. Right? So even with the optimistic $500 knife average, your expected value is still solidly negative. And in reality, even your average skin is going to be less than 10 cents. At least from my experience, because maybe I just have terrible luck. And the thing with this is that when streamers get these sponsorships and these, funds to open a bunch of cases, their expected value is going to be much higher because they're not spending the money on the cases. But for regular players, like probably you and me, opening their 1 to 2 weekly free cases, it's statistically guaranteed money loss. Some papers, if you want to learn more about this, is the first one is called More Than Loot Boxes, the Role of Video Game Streams and Gambling-Like Elements in the Gaming-Gambling Connection Among Adolescents. Basically found that watching people gamble makes you want to gamble more, especially in video games where, you also play the game yourself. Another one, it's the attraction of winning that draws you in, a qualitative investigation of reasons and facilitators for video game loot box engagement in UK gamers. Also, the same thing. Watching other people gamble makes you want to gamble too. So the next problem is this thing called the sunk cost fallacy. So let's say you've started opening CSGO crates, and if you had an experience similar to mine, you would notice that it's really hard to stop opening the crates once you started opening them. So let's say you've opened 5 cases. You got nothing. But now you think, well, I already spent a lot of time and money on this. Statistically, my chances of getting something should be going up. But no. Every single case opening is statistically independent. You have an equally low chance for every single case opening that you do to get nothing. And this is a very common thing, and not just in, opening crates in video games, but in a lot of things. And it's even shown that even there's brain structures that actually control this sort of sunk cost fallacy feeling. Another issue is that the media platforms like YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram Reels, which is where people are watching, especially OneAPixels, become very popular recently on these platforms. They promote the big win clips, and it's not intentional. People keep watching them and they think it's funny, they think it's cool. And so they share it, they save it, they like it, and it spreads it across the algorithm. But this creates this idea that it's more likely for you to win than it actually is. And that's the feeling you'll start to get if you spend more and more time watching these. And it may seem obvious, but you really have to, think about this. If you're gonna start opening CSGO crates, you're gonna want to think, well, am I really doing this because I want to, or because I think that I can win like the people in the video? And it's important to remember that anytime you see YouTubers or people opening a lot of crates and getting a lot of keys and doing these huge publicized unboxings, it's usually sponsored and it's usually a marketing tactic. It's not to say that, they're only doing this to make money. They're doing it for fun and for entertainment, but it's important to remember that these companies want you to see them opening crates and they want you to open them too, or go to their betting websites or their, CSGO skin websites and buy their stuff. And so it's important to know that, it's important to maintain the boundary between entertainment and advertisement from the things you're seeing. So ultimately, I think what most people should do when playing CSGO, if you're not planning on making this a hobby, making this, some big thing that you're going to do all the time, I think it's important to remember that opening cases is going to lead to a sunk cost fallacy. Watching the videos of people opening cases will make you more likely to want to open the cases. And so it's important to just understand what's influencing your thoughts, So another thing is to try to track your own spending and be careful how much time you spend watching these videos, because they've been shown to actually make you want to gamble more, which may exacerbate an addiction if it is already present. Also, make sure you only spend as much as you're willing to lose, which is pretty typical gambling advice, but especially for CSGO, it's very controllable because you can set how much you put into your Steam wallet, and then you can only spend that set amount of money. And that will probably help you, because after a certain point, you're going to run out of money, and then you kind of can't open anymore. I think that's a good wall to have. But alternatively, like me, you can sell all the crates you get from games, ignore all the case openings because you know you're going to lose, and you've learned from your experiences that you're not going to get anything, and then use that money to buy skins that you actually want from the community market, or you can buy other games you want on Steam or whatnot. And that way, I don't have to rely on chance to get the things that I actually want to use in game. Because at the end of the day, even if you do get something good from a crate in CSGO, who says that's what you wanted? Maybe it was for some weapon or item that you never use, and then all of a sudden, well, that's not really useful to me. So the bottom line is that OwniePixel's content is designed to make gambling feel fun, entertaining, and low risk. And that's great. But the problem is that the more viewers watch, the more their brain underestimates the risk, which is not great. So it's important to just maintain your entertainment and marketing boundary, and make sure you're mindfully opening your cases or loot boxes, and that you're making sure you're not watching too many of these videos for too long, because it's going to make you think that you have a higher chance of winning than you actually do.